So I was born in New York, in Harlem. I lived with my mom, my grandmother, and my aunt. At a very early age, my mom and dad divorced. And my mom, my aunt, and my grandmother were working people. So my brother and I had to go to a babysitter on a daily basis. They discovered very early on that we were being abused by this individual. And my grandmother's youngest sister, who lived here in Georgia, came up to take care of us for a little bit. And about 2 months into it, she said, listen, I have a home, I have a family in Georgia. Can I take the kids? And we can work it out. So she brought us back here. We lived in Bowman, Georgia, little tiny Mayberry RFD type town. Literally one traffic light, one general store, one school, kindergarten through 12th grade. And we lived on the school grounds in a trailer. So it was an L-shaped type school, and our trailer sat right there in the center of that. And I attended school there until 4th grade. So I think my main memories start in the Deep South, just because I was so young when I first got here. Bowman, for all intents and purposes, was a little black town. And by that I mean people with darker melanin than I have. So not only was I acutely aware of racism at that time, but also very much colorism. So as a young child, I didn't fit in, really. I was too light to be black and too dark to be white. And I am of mixed heritage. So it was just a very, very confusing and very difficult time for me. I think it was even more so because I was here in Georgia when Martin Luther King was killed, when they had curfews where we couldn't be on the street after a certain time of night. White kids asking me what I was, black kids not accepting me into groups because, again, I didn't fit in with them either. My complexion, the texture of my hair, whatever it may have been. So very early on, I felt like I was having to make a choice. Do I go all the way black and neglect this part of my family, or, just where do I live? I ended up being a black sheep in my family because I decided to be black and all that meant. And that wasn't an easy road, but that's what I decided. I think a lot of that had to do because also, that whole Black Power movement, and just wanting to belong, and then starting to see others of my complexion joining in on that movement and being leaders actually in that movement and feeling some identity with that. So yeah, I think it did help to shape me. I just want to digress for a moment and say, I was also here when they integrated the schools. So when the boycotting and the busing and all of that was taking place, where it was just clearly evident that there was a dividing line there, and having to make a decision. And I couldn't come on to the white side of the line because that's not a reality, right? Legally, that's not a reality for me. But desperately pushing my way into, well, I am black, So let me be Black and let me be a part of this and let me, live in that struggle. And I've seen it all through that, right? So yeah, I do think that helped to shape me. I think perhaps made me even cynical in some ways, that, when we got into the era of affirmative action, right, where there's the token Black person on your team. And for me, it was, I don't want to be your Black friend. I just want to be your friend. I don't want you to know me because I'm Black. I just want you to know me. So I think what's interesting about that, having lived in the different parts of the country that I've lived in, I will say to you, what I like about the South is it is what it is. They either do or they don't, right? So you know where you stand with them, right? And by that I mean between Black and white. It either is or it isn't. It is not that way in the North. These people are smiling in your face while they have knives pointed at your back. And so you never know where you stand. So what was interesting about that is that the North touted this, we're so progressive, we've made all these moves, we've made all these changes, when all the while, that's not really what was happening. It was just lipstick on a pig, okay, that I'm gonna meet this quota, okay? And at the same time, I'm gonna make you think you're a part of this, but all I need is the color of your skin to meet my social agenda. That's all that is. Every company, in their business plan, right, has this agenda. And so we have to have this ratio of Black to white employees or people of color to white employees. And you were just a part of that ratio. And I learned to see that very early on. I'm an observer of people. So it's not about what you say, it's your actions, right? And so you would just see that. So difference here in the South, you knew where you stood. It was painful, but you knew, right? Even from a colorism perspective. Where I was in the North, that was not the case. So when you ask me, is it different? I'm seeing things still today that existed so long ago. They may look different. They have a different wrapper around them. They have a different agenda around them. And if we are God's children, God doesn't look at me and say, I saved her because she's in my Black quota. And so I do still see that today. And coming back here to the South, I still stand by what I say. You know where you stand. And I see that, right? And so my church family, that in focus. I just feel like I'm loved for me, and that's what it is. And I am so proud to be and humbled to be a part of a body that truly just wants to do what God would have us do. And if that issue right now is racism, if that issue right now is human trafficking, whatever it is, that we're unapologetic and that we speak up for it, the marginalized, whatever that is. I think because it is a heart issue, that you just said it, it's not going to be complete until we are in Christ, right? So, but having said that, where we talk about, let me see if I can explain it this way. We're celebrating, a woman vice president and now a black vice president. In 2021, to have to be excited about something like that, we have not arrived. Yes, it's important. Yes, I'm excited. But to have to be excited about something like that in 2021, I'm 60 years old, and I'm waiting 60 years for someone to be excited about something like that. I mean, it just clearly shows that we have not arrived. So I see it not only as a holiday of hope, but a memorial day of sorts, if you will, because it is a memorial of the struggle and the things that have happened. I know there were mixed feelings about having brought forth Juneteenth, right? That, why celebrate that? That's not what this is about. This is truly about, for me, a memorial and a hope for things to come. That as we become more educated, as our hearts are changed, that we continue to move forward and stop taking so many steps backwards. It's not to say we won't make mistakes, but that is to say that if we have a heart after God and we learn from our mistakes and we continue to move forward and we just embrace and we love one another, not because I'm your black friend, but because we're all children of God and we don't want the world to suffer, then I think having this memorial, having this hope continue, I don't want to see it stay where it is. I want to see it grow. So adding to that where there are strides being made, right? And I want to say this. We have so many beautiful babies growing up right now. As a grandmother, as a mother, yes, they probably need to understand the history, but I don't want them to experience that pain in their lives. I don't.